Commissioner Steiner.
I agree with Senator Pinsky that if there is such a body, it needs to be small, independent. I think we still keep circling around the key issue, which is this body going to have the power eventually, and I agree with everybody, you have to start with funds, otherwise you can't get anything going, but is this body going to have the power to withhold funds later on in the process or not? If it is to be given that power, and I would support that, then it is going to need an extensive staff because it's going to have to drill down on each of these funding streams to actually make judgments about whether the money's being well spent or not. If it's going to do all of that, it has to not only be independent of the state board potentially, but also of the legislature. And let me be very plain here. The base closing commission was set up by Congress precisely because Congress, in a rare moment of deep wisdom, understood that its own self-interest would never permit it to vote individually on closing bases in its own districts. We can argue back and forth with David, with the Commissioner about with the State Board, and I'm one of the recent, I suppose, appointments he's talking about. But the point is that the legislature got involved in state education policies. For those who advocated for those policies on the board, the state legislature actually diminished the authority of the state board, not increased it. So the bottom line is that an independent body is independent of everybody, not dependent on some other body, because that repoliticizes the entire process. It doesn't matter whether that body is the teachers' unions or the state board or the legislature or anybody else. The point is this body is going to have to take very difficult, tough decisions, some of which will be politically unpopular, if it has the power to cut the purse strings, which I assumed to be the intention. And therefore, I endorse what Senator Pinsky said, but I don't think we can play both sides of this equation. Either this thing is independent, truly, or it isn't.
Thank you. Commissioner Schaefer. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Commissioner Brinkley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and that's, you articulated very well the point I was going to make in the context that as a legislator who served at the time that the former Secretary of Education came swooping in to make massive changes in, a major education structure in this state, and the legislature, in my opinion, and I was a member of it at the time, interfered with the efforts that were attempted to be made about 15 years ago to try to restructure what was going on. And until and unless you short-circuit that Achilles heel of decision-making process to say we truly are interested in moving forward with this, the accountability issue is still out there. We might have the systems in place to have accountability, but we still see on the headlines the shortcomings of the system that's in place. And whether it's special interest that someone referenced or not, we all have a special interest here in trying to move it all forward. And I got to tell you, I mean, again, I think maybe I am the only person here as a former legislator. Maybe I'm not, Craig, you sit there too. But the point is, until the legislature gets out of the way and lets the people do their job, yes, we have to provide their resources, but the people also expect to see what they're getting for their resources because they are significant resources. Not just that we're investing now, though some might say we need more, and there probably will come more coming out of this work group. But in order for us to justify why we're putting what we are and not putting in other aspects of state, because it is, a zero-sum game. What goes in here is going to have to come from somewhere, either another service that the state delivers, either the debt that we have to pay for the credit cards that we have in the past, or out of the pocketbooks of the people here in the state. And I sensed a lot of tap dancing around that, but that's been the Achilles heel of any type of enforcement, is the politics aspect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.